Welcome everybody. In this tutorial we're going to be making a new project here, and this project is going to be a very simple kind of reaction timer game, and we're going to go and put this into HD landscape. And I'm just going to zoom out here by pushing the control on the wheel. Let's change the window size to the HD, which, by the way, HD is 1920 by 1080 pixels across here. And we're also going to we're going to double click, we're going to add a sprite, and the sprite is going to be a dark gray, and I'm going to make this dark gray a little bit lighter than I'd usually want it to be. I usually like to make mine pretty dark, but we'll go ahead and do this just because it's easier to program. Let's hop into our layers tab here. Let's go and let's type in background because we're going to put this as a background layer here, and we'll lock that up. And of course we need a new layer. Always make sure that the new layer is selected here. And while we are here, let's go ahead and let's save it here, and let's go and save it as, for example, we'll call this reaction timer, and this is a part of my successful Kickstarter. So I'm just going to save it there. Now, that folder that you just saw, you want to make sure that you save it and back that up regularly. In fact, that is on my SkyDrive or whatever the Microsoft cloud service is. It constantly changes its name. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's add in our first item here, and we're going to add in a text box, and we're going to move it somewhere in here, and we'll just kind of make this quite big. We'll change it to something like 300. We're going to make this huge, and we're going to also make this 0. Basically, what this whole game is supposed to be is the reaction timer. I'm going to set the red, green, and blue to 248, 248, and 248, and that gives you an off-white, which I always like off-whites, and I'm just going to move that out here. Horizontal alignment, I'm going to put to center here, and we can actually put this center here. Although the vertical alignment, I don't actually see it be all that different. So I always just put it up as top here. And since this is a very simple game, we can actually probably make this twice as much here. Let's try and make this 600, and this is going to be quite a bit bigger. And the only issue I have with text boxes in Construct 2, yeah, that's probably what I want to do there. So the only issue I have with text boxes is the fact that it's a little bit hard to work with, just simply because the sides are a little bit too cumbersome, and just positioning it's kind of awkward. We're also going to set the hotspot to the middle. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing that is I'm going to pull out my trusty calculator. And my trusty calculator, since the whole width of this is 1920, I'm going to go 1920 divided by 2, and it's going to be 960. I'm going to make sure that this position here is indeed 960, and that way we know it's in the center. Now, I'm going to add in, I'm going to say this here is text layer. And the reason why I do this is, you see how big this text box is? It's pretty big, and I don't want to mess around with that when I'm doing this here. So, and I'm making the game here. So I'm actually putting in another layer here, and now we don't have to worry about the text box at all. Having said that, I'm just going to actually move this down just a bit. Okay, there we go. And just to make sure, I think I probably moved it to the side of it. Yeah, we definitely want it to be 960. Close that off, and this concludes the tutorial. Welcome back. Let's take a look at how we can go and make this work here. So first of all, I'm going to make a block, and I'm going to make it the off-white color. And I'm going to do this one, 248, 248, and 248. If you're wondering what alpha is, that is the transparency. And I'm just going to make it this here. And this is probably a big enough size. We could probably make it a little bit bigger. Now, one of the hardest parts about developing for mobile specifically is if you take a look at the size of this screen, and you take a look at how big an actual iPhone or Android device is, it could be quite a bit smaller. So this is probably a little bit on the small side. And when you think of the phone, if you want to develop specifically for phones, you want to make sure that you're actually making things a little bit bigger. That's just a general tip that I usually do. The other thing is I'm going to resize this here, and I'll probably make it 300. I think 300 is pretty good, and we'll go ahead and close that here. And yeah, that's probably right what we want to do here. Another tip that I can give you is make sure that you don't put everything near to the edge of the margin. You definitely want to have margins a little bit. You definitely want to have margins here. The other thing you can do is you can snap to grid, and this way it will kind of snap to it here. Now we can change the grid, and let's actually make it 100 by 100, and just because it'll make things easier, a little bit easier. Okay, and we're going to call this, first of all, we're going to call this one, call this block 1, and I'm going to clone this object type. And yeah, that looks more like this here, and it's obviously going to be block 2. A couple of other items that we did not do is this one can be called text, and the background sprite should be called background. And let's just make sure we've done that here, and that should be it. Okay, so we've done this here. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete block 2, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that we're going to actually change the color here. So white is going to be the color. White is going to be the color that you do not touch, and we're going to add a frame here. And green is going to be the color that you do push. And I'm going to make it kind of a pastel green. You can kind of play around with this if you want, but I actually like this kind of this green up here. Anyway, the green up here works pretty well. Let's see. You can even maybe even make it more of a bluish green. There we go. Something like that. Perfect. So if we go ahead and run it, it's going to play the animation here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from white to green, and then we're going to add one here, and it's going to be a nice big nasty red. And just to kind of make it more consistent, we'll make it more of the pastel red here. And red will be if you get it wrong. Okay? So now that we have that there, let's take a look at some of the text objects that we need to do in the event sheet. This includes the tutorial. So if we run this here, and I'm just going to go ahead and push the run button, and I'm going to drag this over. Okay, what will happen is you'll see that it kind of runs already. Well, why does it do that? Well, the animation automatically plays. So what we have to do is you have to go to System, on Start of Layout, and we need to stop it. So we're going to go to Block 1, Animation, and we're just simply going to stop it here. So if we do that, then it works out quite well. Okay, let's hop back into here, and let's clone this object type, and what we're going to do is we're going to simply move it so that it is on the other side. And that should be about right. Yeah. And that's 300, and this is about 1600. Yeah, so we can make it like that there. Now, another thing I should mention is that the camera bounds actually are a little bit deceptive, but that's okay. There's just maybe 15 pixels below this, but essentially that works too. But you see that we didn't set the second one, and we need to go and do that. So we're going to actually copy and paste this, right click, replace the object, and we're just going to replace it with block 2. And if we run it again, and I just like to use F5 here, you can see that this indeed does work. All right, so that works out pretty well. Let's hop back into construct 2, and let's add in a new global variable. And this variable is going to select which item is going to work. So we're going to call this block select, and this block select is going to pick one of these two here. And on the start of layout, we're going to go to System, set value of block select to round random, and we're going to make it between 0 and 0 and we'll make it 0 and 2. That will do, actually it has to be 0 and 1. Okay, and the reason why we have to do the random is because if we don't do it, we round the random because the random will give you a decimal otherwise. It'll be like 2.5 or whatever. So we have to round it. So this way it will pick one of these two here. Okay? And in the next tutorial, we're going to set up the logic. All right, so let's take a look at this here. Let's go to System, and we'll go Compare Variable. If block select is equal to 0, then we're going to go to block 1. We're going to do set frame, and this is going to set which frame that we have in there. And remember, the green is 1 here. And if we copy and paste this here, and we'll say if block select is equal to 1 this time, we're going to replace this object, and block 2 is going to be set to frame 1. So what I do here is that one of these is going to be selected here, and you can see that they go in between each one here. And we could have, in theory, did this with 3 blocks, but I think 2 blocks actually works out quite well because it's actually quite simple. So the idea of this whole game is that when this is green, it will get you'll click it and you'll get a point. If it's not green, you don't get a point. Now you might think, well, that's pretty simple, but there's going to be a timer, and we're gonna talk about that. But before we go on here, let's take a look at this logic. We've set up a global variable to select which box that we have here. Okay, and we've set up the box, and depending on which box that we have, we've set the animation frame to the green one here. Okay, so that sets up the box logic there. Now it can be confusing setting up these frames here, but this is the best way to deal with this kind of color coding. This concludes the tutorial. Welcome back. Okay, so now that we've set up the block here, we need to set up the touch. So we're going to double click and add the touch object in here, and we're going to say if touch has touched object, and we're going to say this object is going to be block 1. And we're also going to copy and paste the box select in here. So if you've touched the block while the box select has been selected, then we're going to go and add in a point here. Now, in order to do that, we need to go and add in a score variable, and we're going to add 1 to score. So we're going to add 1 to score. Okay. What we also need to do is print this score. So we're going to go to System, every tick, and we're going to go to Text. And we're going to do set text, and we're going to set it to score. Okay. So now that we have that here, let's do the exact same thing here, except we'll do touch block 2, and box select is equal to 1, and then we'll simply add 1 to score here. Let's run that and see how that works here. So we got 1, 2, 3, and of course this game is kind of broken now, isn't it? It's broken because it doesn't reset the score here. So we need to reset the random number here. Now there is a bit of an issue with this. Now while this works, one thing that you need to know is that the computer reads logic really fast, and sometimes it can skip that logic because it reads it so fast. I'm going to go to System Wait, and I'm going to wait 0.1 seconds. And what that's going to do is that is simply going to wait so that it re-randomizes the blocks here. So we got 1, and then there's another problem, and this is why we test early and often. And this is the way I like to develop. You do something, test it, do something, test it, do something, test it. I found that your project gets out faster with fewer bugs this way. Okay, so we also need to set this here. So if box select is set to frame 1, we actually need to set block 2 here to frame 0. Okay, and I'm actually going to do block 1 here to frame 0 as well. So that way, in these two objects, we're going to actually be setting each one here. So 1, 2, and you can see there's just a bit of a delay. Right? You can see that there's a bit of a delay when it moves here, and that's because we added in that wait here, right? So there we go. But currently, we don't have the logic to make a mistake, and we're going to add that in the next tutorial. The next thing we need to do is we need to find a way to let the user know that they've selected the wrong answer there. So in order to do that, I'm going to go and I'm going to add in a group, and this group is going to be correct logic, and I'll just simply move that in there. I'm going to copy and paste that. Right click, edit. I'm going to call this incorrect logic. Now, to make the incorrect logic, we do have to do quite a bit of work here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just delete all of these here for now. We need to switch these, and what that means is that, if you go and you touch the block 1 when the wrong block is selected, it's going to do something else here. Okay, and what that means here is we need to add in yet another variable, and we'll call this is correct. Okay, and we'll make that equal we'll make it equal to 1, because that 1 is equal to true. And we're going to double click on this, and we'll say compare variable is correct. We'll make that equal to 1 here. And we need to do this. If we don't do this, then it will not work. Let's go ahead. Let's add in a value here, and we'll set is correct to 0. And we'll also do that here. And we can actually copy and paste this here. And if we say is correct, and we can say box select is equal to 0, all we have to do is select block here, and we'll say it's animation 2. And likewise here, we'll say it's animation 2. So let's go ahead and let's run that here. So if we select that here, you can see here that this animation 2 hasn't quite worked out the way we wanted it to. And so is correct has to be equal to 0. That's the only difference. So once we set is correct to 0, right? So we got green, and if I click on this here, it sets the let's just see if we can do that with the other one as well. Yeah, it sets the wrong one. So sometimes you need to test it, and just because switching things around, there we go. And so now that we have this here, this red one, we now know that the user has pushed the wrong button. This concludes the tutorial. Now we have to go and reset the game. And now that we have this here, let's go ahead, let's add in a wait, and we'll wait 3 seconds, and we'll simply go ahead and wait 3 seconds here. And if we want to, we can add in a function, and we'll say it's a function here, and we'll add that function. We'll say on function reset, just like that here, and then we'll call the reset system. In here we'll say function call function and then it'll be reset, just like that here. And we'll copy and paste that in here. In here we will restart the layout, and what we also have to do is reset the score. So set score to 0, and we'll select is correct to 1, and then box select, we can go and randomize it here, and restart layout should be at the bottom here. So let's go ahead and let's test that. So you can play the game, and then 1, 2, 3, and there we go. Reset the game. So there we go, and we can kind of do this as much as we want. And there we go. And I miss it. Most of the time, this game seems really simple, but it actually is a little bit harder than you think, because the way that people are going to want to speed up, and that's not going to work there. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a little bit of a difficulty counter. Okay. This concludes the tutorial. Let's add in a counter here. Instead of adding in a number counter, we're going to add in a visual counter. In order to do that, we're going to add in a sprite, and we're going to make this just a simple, let's make it a yellow color. And I'm choosing yellow just because it's a color that's not used within the app. So normally I'd make it green, but we're already using green. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of set it kind of like this. And what I'm also going to do is take off the snap to grid. So I'm just going to kind of move it in here, and it's going to be like that. Okay. So we're going to take a look at the size here. The size is 800 by 20. And I'm just going to undo this for a second, just pushing Control Z. And then I'm going to say width is 800 by 20. So I reset it. Then what I ended up doing is I made sure I had the exact width that I wanted to, and I had the exact width that I wanted to, and then I put it out there. So let's go ahead and run it here, and that actually is a pretty good bar here. Now what this is going to do is we are going to make this bar get smaller. So in order to do that, let's go and go system, every X seconds, we'll make it 1 second. We'll go to, we'll say the sprite here, and the sprite is going to be, if we look at the size here, size and position, we'll say set width to sprite, and I'm going to change the name of this in a second, dot width minus or divided by, let's see, we'll say, since it's 800, we'll say minus 300. Okay, and so we run that here, and then okay, and then what's interesting is why is it growing is because it's actually getting into a minus a minus state, and it's actually growing. So if you think about it, this is slowly going over, and then it's going the other way. And it's essentially flipping itself inside out. And we'll call this progress bar. Okay, we'll add in another item here, and we'll say if progress bar width, and as you can see here it says compare width, is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to simply call the function reset. So let's go ahead and let's do that here. So we click this once, twice, and then you can see it gets reset. So we got 1, 2, 3 seconds. So essentially we have 3 seconds to deal with this here. Okay, so it's 3, 2, 1, and that essentially is what we need to do there. Okay, in the next tutorial we'll set up more of the logic. All right, so now that we have this reset here, when we click the right button, we need to reset the width of the progress bar. So that's very simple. We're going to go to progress bar, you're going to go to set width, and we're going to simply set it to 800. So all it's going to do is it's going to reset the progress bar back to 800. So if we do this here, you can see that we can do this as much as we want, and then until we get this here. And you can see that this 3 second thing actually works out quite well. But you can see that the progress bar, what happens is that when we hit the incorrect, it still goes. So what we have to do is we have to do is correct is equal to 1. So if we click the wrong one, it stops completely. Okay, and then we got to click the right one, keep on clicking the right one, and you can see that it works out quite well, and that way it gives you a bit of a time. Now you can even actually make this smaller if you want, right? But I think that's actually a pretty good amount of time. Keep in mind that when you test your own game, it's actually way easier because you made the game. Someone else who just started doesn't exactly know. So I think that's probably a good difficulty. This concludes the tutorial. So that pretty much wraps up this game. Now this game is actually pretty cool and pretty easy. There was one thing that's majorly missing from this, and that is kind of a menu screen. Because if you make a wrong mistake, it doesn't really have a menu screen. So your challenge is to go and make a menu screen, a title screen, and a kind of fail screen. So once you click the wrong button, it will go to the fail screen, and then you can have the option of either going back to the main screen or going back to the game here. And this is really important to know how to do that. So in this case, it's actually a three-screen game. We have the menu, the game screen, and then the fail screen. And in that fail screen, you can have any other types of functionality. For example, submitting it to Game Center, tweeting your score, all of that cool stuff. All right. So that's your challenge, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.